This is Comic Picks by the Glick.
And I'm your host, Jason Glick.
Hey, Jason Glick, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing just fine, Rob. And in fact, I'm doing great because we are about to do something that I have actually been waiting years to do.
And what is that?
Okay, people who read the blog may remember, if they got long memories, that I've written some reviews on the Neon Genesis Evangelion manga, and I've seen the anime like years ago. It's one of my all-time favorite anime series, along with the original movie. I mean, and it's like I started reading the manga after it came into omnibus form. Now, it's like I thought it was an interesting alternate take on the series, and also notable for the fact that it was actually written and illustrated by one of the key creative people from the anime, character designer Yoshiyuki Sadamoto. So basically, with this manga, you actually get something that actually looks like like what you saw on the TV series. I mean, and just Sadamoto is a phenomenal talent. It's like, and I loved seeing his interpretation of the series, both visually and and from a narrative perspective. But the thing that I wanted that I wanted to know most about this series, or something that got me about this, is the fact that I was talking with my buddy Rob, who some of you may remember from, if you've got long memories, from the Irredeemable Incorruptible podcast. In fact, he's here with us right now. Hey, Rob, how's it going?
Hey, Jason, it's pretty good. How are you?
Cool. Yeah, and I found out, and we just came out in random conversation like a couple of years ago now, that you have never seen the Evangelion anime.
Yep, that's true. I haven't.
Yeah. So as soon as I heard this, I basically asked you, it's like, hey, would you be willing to read the manga and then talk about it with me on a podcast?
Yep. Yeah, I remember when you did that, and I thought it was a pretty cool idea.
Yeah, because I mean, it's like it's like I've got my reference to the anime series to fill in for any blanks that may have been left out in the manga. But how does this hold up for someone? How does the manga hold up for someone who has never seen the anime? Now, just for reference, Neon Genesis Evangelion is the story of one kid, Shinji Ikari, who after years of being ignored and neglected by his dad, is suddenly summoned one day to Japan. It's like at this summoned one day by his dad to Tokyo, this is right at the moment that Tokyo is being attacked by a strange creature known only as an angel. And apparently, the reason his dad, Gendo, has summoned him there is because Shinji is the only one who can pilot the mecha that can defeat the angels, known as the Evangelion. And even though it's like a premise as old as the mecha genre itself in Japan, it's like Evangelion, the TV series, is memorable for the amount of psychological depth, it's like that it plunged its main characters into. I mean, it's like just the way it explored their personalities and their motivations, and just basically in the fact that it gave us main character in Shinji, who basically did not want to save the world, and put him as the main character in this show, and just basically established why does someone like him fight, and also just what the reasons that his co-pilots, other Evangelion pilots, had for fighting as well. What were their motivations as well, and also the sheer amount of conspiracy that went in between the organization that was running the Evangelion's nerve and its parent organization Zele. It's like, what was the story there? It's like the series took Japan by storm, and its influence is still felt even to this day. In fact, it's still one of the foremost manga anime series out in here as well. Its influence has endured almost 2 decades after its original release. And even though the manga debuted just before the anime released, Sadamoto just finished the manga late last year. He finished it in 2002. He didn't get the final volume out until last year because he was busy remastering it and also putting in a bunch of extra pages as well. So, but Sadamoto has also been hugely busy as a character designer on the likes of Wolf Children Summer Wars, The Girl Who Leapt Through Time, Dot Hack Sign. I mean, Die Buster. Like that dude's an A-list character designer. So he's been busy these last 19 years. The manga has been in serialization. So that's why it's took so goddamn long to get these 14 volumes out. But I've rambled on enough. Rob, as someone who has not seen the anime, how does the manga actually work as a story? Does it actually make sense to you?
As far as makes sense, I think that's an interesting question in general for a lot of anime or manga. In that I've seen a few that before that have towards the end become mysterious and kind of odd, and this one kind of does that as well. I not to get into specifics on that, but as far as how it went,
Rob, I just want to interject that when you talk about the end of this manga, once you see the end of Evangelion, the last volume you'll go, oh, so that's where he got it from. Okay,
well, I think I already figured out what you're talking about, and we can get to that later.
Okay, but I'm to our audience. I'm basically like, you can just take a shot each time I try to interrupt Rob and say, "Hey, this is how the anime was," and you can also go, "Man, what a dick." So sorry, Rob. Continue.
That's okay. So if you're referring to a particular character, there was a character that showed up in the end that I was like, "Who's that?" And I'm like, probably somebody from the anime. So I guess I'll just go over kind of my initial impressions of it, if that's okay. Is that okay?
Go for it. I got time.
Okay, so I started reading it, not really knowing much except as far as I knew, it was probably a giant robot versus giant monster situation.
Yep.
The first thing that I thought was kind of amusing is, of course, it takes place in the distant future, the year 2015.
Oh, yeah, it's like that's...
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, thanks to Evangelion, we are living in the future now.
Yeah, we are. So, it's got the typical, you've got the 14-year-old kid. He's late. It's right in the beginning. He's late, and this is a common thing in anime and manga where the kid is late in the beginning. Marisa likes to joke about that. My wife Marisa. Anyway, I thought it was a little difficult for me to get into in the very beginning, because the kid, it was hard for me to identify with Shinji, because he was so depressed that he had really no motivation at all. So without a character having motivations in the beginning, it was difficult for me to identify with him. That changed as things went on. But, it's, as you described, he gets contacted by his father. He's, kind of out, walking in the streets, and it seems relatively normal. He's, oh, I'm late for this meeting with, this person who is apparently somebody that his father knows. I assumed it was like a stepmother or something like that. I didn't know, and that's Misato. And as he's walking, there's a giant robot fight that starts. Giant robot versus a giant monster fight starts. And I'm like, whoa, that's kind of interesting to have that happen right off the start. And Misato shows up in a car and seems to know what's going on. She saves him. She takes him, to this place, and that's where we learn that, he's being brought because they want him to pilot one of the giant robots, the Evas, as they're calling them.
Yeah, and also, that Misato, she's, even though she's an adult, she's not really the most mature of individuals.
Exactly, yeah. She reminded me... It's funny because when she's in a work environment, she's totally serious and in control and very competent. Outside of a work environment, she reminded me of the English teacher from Azumanga Daioh, Yukari.
Yes.
It just totally reminded me of her. And, she's just kind of, goofy and not really in control. Which it was interesting because the manga opens and it's pretty serious. And then at some point, it's like, oh, while you're here and you're going to be training, and using this robot, you're going to stay with me. So he starts to stay with her, and she has this penguin that seems to be hyper intelligent or something. And
yeah, good old Pen.
Yeah, and so that it was weird because I wasn't expecting that. I wasn't expecting to have that, kind of comedic aspect to the storyline because the rest of it seems very serious. The kid's very, sullen and, I don't really have a reason to live and all that.
Yeah, so were you thinking that this is like going to be like a story about how Shinji learns to care about everything again at that point?
At that point, I wasn't really thinking about that. I was kind of waiting for something to happen. And okay, we met Ray, who is another pilot, who seems kind of like him, but even more, reserved. And they get in their suits, their giant robots.
Their big bonding mission.
Yeah, they get in their giant robots. They fight. A giant monster, and at this point, I was kind of like, I'm not even sure why Jason wants me to talk about this because I don't really have all that much to say. I mean, it's enjoyable, but what's so interesting to talk about? And so it took a little while after that I started to see what was going on, why you wanted to talk about this.
Yeah, and also I wanted to say that the way I thought it was interesting to see that the first Evangelion basically as it is now is split up into it's 14 volumes. This has released it in 4 omnibuy for the first 12 volumes, and then volumes 13 and 14 you can buy by themselves. The first 2 omnibuy are kind of like the you could almost call them like the good times.
Right. Yep.
This is basically they follow the conventional arc of Shinji getting to know people, like broadening his world and realizing that hey, there is more to life out there. Yeah,
that's a good way to put it. He meets his other friends in school. The kid that starts bullying him, and then he's got that kid has kind of a nerd, kind of following him around. That's his buddy, and but they become friends over time, which is kind of unusual.
Yeah, but it's nice in the sense that you turn your former enemy, they reach you reach an understanding, and it eventually able to call this guy your friend.
Yeah.
And so, but seeing of friends, so what did you think of Asuka when she first arrived on the scene?
Asuka, okay. I'm for some reason that's her last name, right, or her family name.
Soryu Asuka Langley.
I've been pronouncing her name wrong. I've been calling her Asuka. That's why I'm not getting it. Okay, so Asuka.
This is what my 4 quarters of Japanese at UCR have got me. So
awesome. Yeah, I didn't really retain any foreign language. I took Russian in high school, and all I can remember is some swear words. Anyway, so Asuka. At first, I thought she was interesting because I tend to like strong female characters. That's something I'm a fan of. Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I like Dan Slott's She-Hulk run. I like these kind of characters, but she very quickly turned out to be not just a strong character, but kind of not a nice person.
No.
I would describe her. I would say that I felt she was an awful person.
Yeah, so she's much more two-faced in the manga than she is in the anime. In the sense that she presents in the manga, she presents this hey, I'm just like an honest. I'm just like a nice girl who's going to do it, follow the rules and whatever you want when she's in front of adults and authority figures. But when we meet her, she is beating the crap out of the UFO catcher and unleashes some sick martial arts moves on some thugs. It's in downtown as well.
Right, and that makes you go, ooh, she's cool. But Man, I got to tell you, personality is really important to me. One of the most important things when I'm watching a movie or reading a book or anything like that is I need to enjoy the characters. The characters are probably the most important thing to me. Yes, story is important. Yes, everything else is important too. Visuals, whatever, those are important. But if I don't care about the characters, then you're really not going to keep my attention. And at this point, I think by this time, I'd met her, and so far I had difficulty caring about any of the characters. I think the only one that I really was interested in at this point was Misato. Am I pronouncing her name right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, Asuka's character arc is interesting. I still, even towards the end of the book, didn't like her until the very end.
Oh, wow. It's like, and, let's say her very end in the manga is different from the anime. God damn it, I'm doing it again. But it's kind of like, but it's interesting because some of the differences that Sadamoto does here are kind of zero-sum games. As a matter of fact, I mean, like, at the same time, they don't actually change anything with respect to the stories being told. For instance, Asuka's fate in the manga versus the anime isn't all that different actually. And to be honest, I don't know. I do kind of like the what happens during in the manga because he goes to like because okay, we mentioned this we were talking about this beforehand, but my thing about the Evangelion manga compared to the anime, the manga is the glass half full version of the story, and it's like Asuka's fate in the at the end of the manga kind of exemplifies that. And also, but it's also worth noting because of the fact that she also makes she's one of two characters who makes an interesting comparison between the differences between the anime and the manga. Because Rob, you remember in the manga that Asuka was introduced by in this like brief moment where she killed an angel at sea. Do you remember that part?
Yes, I do remember that.
In the anime, that took an entire episode, and it was actually like a joint effort between herself and Shinji. It's like in Unit 02.
Okay, that's different.
Yeah, it's like but at the same, I think I like the way that Sadamoto kind of like reduced things right here because it basically establishes Asuka's character as someone who is she is extremely competent and a real badass. She was able to take on an angel herself, and then at the same time, then you move into the battle between the angel with the dual core,
right?
Which had comes from one of the anime episodes. That's one of the best titles ever. Dance Dance like your lives depended on it. Yeah, so I mean it's like the whole so even though he basically took an entire episode and just reduced it to a couple pages, he basically spent the rest of the volume adapting this 2-episode. Was it 2 episodes? No, I think it was just 1 episode. That followed a little while later. So, but at the same time, I still think it works because he takes the whole Asuka Shinji relationship and just basically he sets it up. He effectively sets it up and then basically spends the necessary time basically showing you, okay, how are these two going to work together in order to defeat this common threat. Right,
and that was interesting, but having these two people that clearly did not care for each other, and they're effectively rivals because he doesn't really care about whether he's better than her or not, but it's really important to her to be the best. And I do find that aspect interesting. I like to see that in storylines where there are characters that are rivals and they wind up working together, and it has to good effect. I enjoy that, and they did that well here.
Yeah, and also with Asuka's arc, I mean, just the fact that her drive to be the best kind of winds up almost defeating her in the end.
Yes, yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Yeah, but also, one of the other characters I think exemplifies it, that's interesting to analyze the difference between the TV series and the anime is Kaoru.
Kaoru, which is that the guy that Asuka likes?
No, that's Kaji.
Kaji, I'm sorry.
Kaoru is the silver-haired guy who basically tries to make friends with Shinji, who winds up being the final angel.
So, that guy. Oh man, I'd completely forgotten. I'm sorry. Yeah, this is why I wanted to do this as quickly as possible. Yeah, that guy was. That was another guy. He kind of reminded me of the. I don't remember the name of the character, but in Last Exile, I think you know who I'm talking about. The creepy kid.
No, Dio?
Yeah, he reminded me of Dio. Just because, I don't know, they seem to frequently have this, oh, here's the creepy kid.
It's like, now that you mention it, I do kind of see the parallels between Dio and Kaoru in the sense they both have this kind of fixation on the main character.
Exactly, and that's what reminded me of it. It was both the fixation and the way he approached it is like, I have no concept of, social interaction, and so he's just intensely creepy.
Yes, invading Shinji's personal space, asking him all these questions. But the thing about Kaoru that separates him from the anime is the fact that Kaoru shows up in episode 24, and he only shows up for like 13 minutes.
And that's it?
That's it. Wow. And we get to the manga. He's actually got four volumes where he's a significant character. I mean, would you say that he is definitely a key member of the Evangelion team?
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, he seemed he came in late, but it seemed like he was going to be important, and I felt like his end was a little surprising and abrupt.
Yeah, it's also it's the way it ends. It's not entirely different from the anime, but the anime is kind of like, on one hand, like Kaoru's death. You have to have a whole lot of balls in order to do it the way it's done in the anime. But the manga I thought was cool because it's like it does. I mean, those 13 minutes that he was in the TV series, fandom just kind of like, wow, it's like he is a character we want to see more of. I mean, God knows, like, I read lots of hentai manga on the internet, and Kaoru, the Shinji X Kaoru hentai doujinshi, holy shit, there is a fuck ton of that stuff out there.
Yeah, not surprised after the moment in the bedroom.
Yeah, but I also kind of appreciate the fact that even though like Sadamoto does kind of like acknowledge, there are moments where he definitely acknowledges that whole hey, there's this huge amount of fandom that does want to see Shinji and Kaoru get it on. He doesn't fully commit to it in the sense that even Shinji is like basically rejects Kaoru at one point, saying, "No, I don't like you," and guys shouldn't like guys and all. So.
I had an interesting. I mean, this is actually not necessarily related to the manga, but when I read that scene, I looked at Marisa and I said, it's interesting because if I had read that section when I was 20 years old or younger, I would have had that same reaction where, ew, that's gross. But today I'm like, well, that some guys do like guys.
Yeah, it's like if I had read this when I was that old as well, I mean, to be honest, it takes you need a lot of context for Japan and how that whole yaoi subculture is, and you realize, oh, okay, so like there's all this other subtext going on here in the sense that like there is this whole Shinji X Kaoru, like chippers and dojin and fandom out there. At the same time, I still think that Sadamoto does portray like their relationship in an interesting light, particularly the fact that remember the very first scene where Shinji and Kaoru meet, and that thing that Kaoru does to the cat there, and just like,
yes, that's
like, dude, man, like that. It's like, I mean, that's just harsh, especially since I'm a cat person. Yeah. And then when in their very final scene together, it really does come full circle in the sense that Shinji had to do that because otherwise, he would have been killed.
Yes, yeah.
So,
and I thought that was a good arc the way that they handled it. I thought that was I was very disturbed by what he did to the cat, but then the fact that that ending happened the way it did made it feel right.
Yeah, it's like the cutaway to showing Shinji and Kaoru in the field in their final at that final moment. That was really well done on Sadamoto's part.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and I mean, it's like I do think that Sadamoto does utilize the manga to flesh out some key relationships and characters in the it's like compared to the anime. Like Kaji, the bit about Kaji where he talks to Shinji about his past and explain what it was like surviving after the second impact as a kid. I mean, that's not there. And also there are moments with a couple other moments with Kaji in this. When he takes Shinji to the aquarium, and he basically tells Shinji that he basically turns Shinji's "I mustn't run away" philosophy around and saying no. It's like no, you mustn't look away from the truth. That was cool. And also when Kaji calls Shinji out for not fighting during the battle against Unit 03, I mean. He's got a real point there in the sense that, hey, yeah, yes, you were forced to kill your friend, but at the same time, all this came about because you weren't willing to fight in the first place.
Right. I had a lot of different questions about the manga that I don't know if you want me to wait until the end or you want to talk more about specific aspects.
If you got specific questions, just throw them out right now.
Oh, sure. Okay. So one thing that I thought was interesting about it, and I don't know, this isn't necessarily a question, more of a comment, but relatively early on, they imply that, or straight out state that the Evas are powered by love, and yet Shinji seems to be so apathetic. But he has these moments where he becomes very powerful, and I kept some notes while I was reading it that as I went back. I learned new things, and each of my questions were answered, and I understand now why he's so good. And that's because his mother is in EVA 01.
Yes, from a certain point of view.
Yeah, the implication I got is that there are pieces in the story where they talk about. I think they imply that the angels don't have souls, or they're able to make copies of the angels that don't have souls. And it seemed to me like Shinji's mother chose to give up her soul in order to fight the angels, to empower the Eva.
That's one thing that's one thing from the manga that I do remember that in the manga. I wish I could find out where I read this beforehand, because I seem to remember someone talking about it's like in the anime somewhere that it was that the fact that she what happened to her in Unit 01 was actually an act of sabotage by Ritsuko's mother, Naoko Akagi.
So that must have been in the anime, because I didn't get that impression at all in this.
Yeah, because it's like that's one thing that I wish I could remember. It's like God damn it, I could just be imagining this, but it's such a seductive plot point to me, because it actually makes sense considering the fact that in the anime, it's like it was implied that it basically revealed that Gendo really was basically said that he loved her just in order to manipulate her into working on the Eva project, and then when young Rei basically tells her that, oh, Gendo just calls you an old hag. I mean, that's it. It all kind of flows together right there, and it also just contributes to the whole Ritsuko perpetrating the same exact failures as her mother. It's like in both the manga and the anime. Right,
and that was a thing that I when it first happened, when Ritsuko was strangling Rei, I was like, boy, why is she doing that? There doesn't seem to be any reason for that. And then later they reveal it's basically Rei is isn't Rey kind of also a like a representation of the mother? She's
basically like a clone of Yui.
Kind of, yeah. Like, but isn't it using
I
like
think it's
Lilith's body parts or something?
Yeah, I think it's like half angel, half human clone of Yui.
Right. So I mean, we're kind of jumping around these. I mean, not really going in order, but honestly, I got to tell you, I read through them fast, and for me to really remember stuff, exactly in order, I have to read them several times. But so I have specific things that are popping out. There was a moment in the book where Rey is in, I assume it was Unit 00.
Yes.
With the Spear of Longinus, which they, bring in on a aircraft carrier, which I thought was really interesting. And I realize now that I'm like, well, that's pretty big to be the Spear of Longinus, because supposedly the concept of the Spear of Longinus is this is a spear that was stuck in Jesus' side while he was on the cross, right?
It's gotten bigger with symbolism over the years.
Right, yeah. So I'm getting the impression, and I actually, I read some of the supplemental material that's in the Omnibuy, that it may not, really supposed to be the Spear of Longinus, and it's just that these guys in Zayla are obsessed with biblical symbolism.
I want to interject right there, just because I want to say that just the fact that Japan has had a long, weird relationship with Christianity, from just persecuting and crucifying Christians back in the feudal era to Evangelion itself, in the sense that Evangelion kind of exemplifies Japan's willingness to just take random bits of religious mythology from any religion and just say, hey, this sounds really cool. Let's go run. Let's just give it this name and go run with it.
Right. It is the equivalent of American, comics or whatever using bits of Norse or Greek mythology. It's totally the equivalent for Japan, I think.
Yeah, and I think that for a while, Evangelion basically made it really cool to just take random bits of mythology, specifically Christian, to and just create your own really, really weird and obtuse conspiracy theory plot. I mean, no series ever really did it as well as Evangelion, but that didn't stop a whole lot of people from trying.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's interesting, and the fact that they have this was a question that I had that's really a cultural question, and an example of this is they call the giant monsters that show up, they call them angels, and where if this was an American-made story, they would be called demons.
Yes,
because you could not call the quote bad guys angels, although there's an argument that they're not necessarily the bad guys.
Mm-hmm.
That could be made. Anyway, where I was getting with the spear is you see there's this one page that has Rey in Unit 001 using the Spear of Longinus to pierce what at the time we are told is Adam's body. And it's really was it Lilith, right?
Yeah.
That's the name. I'm sorry, I'm not great with names in the book because I haven't read it, that many times.
Yeah, in fact, there's still lots of stuff on the overall mythology of Evangelion that I'm still fuzzy about, and why it would make a huge amount of difference between whose giant freakish body is stuck down there. That's definitely one of them.
Right. So the thing is that so there's that moment that I see that, and then combined with there was a piece of the supplemental stuff that basically says, the second impact was human caused, which was way before the manga itself revealed it through the the art and storyline. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, oh, and I stopped reading the supplemental material there, but it said that the second impact was caused by using the Spear of Longinus to pierce Adam, and his AT field reacted and caused that explosion. Well, so what was the motivation of I'm sorry, it's Gendo, right?
Gendo.
Gendo, to have Rey stick the Spear of Longinus in Lilith's body. At the time, we believed that was Adam. What was he hoping for? Did he want to create a third impact at that point?
Shit. For all I know, it's like that the moment, I know the moment you're talking about, and for all I know, it's like it could have. It's like I said, it's a lot of this stuff is just Japan taking like bits of Christian mythology and just running with their own storyline with it. That particular scene you're talking about is also, it's like in the anime to a certain extent, but at the same time, it's like, as far as I can tell, it's like he just put it there. You could argue that he just put it there for safekeeping, or that it was just part of his master plan to control the third impact itself when it finally happened. As far as how it was meant to control the third impact, all I can give you is what the internet told me, and that is because reasons.
Okay, yeah, that's kind of too bad, because that's a big question to me. Is what did he expect to happen when he stuck that spear in there? Given that supposedly the impact was, are we to assume, based on the supplemental material, that, because my understanding is the tiny kind of weird newt-looking thing is the real Adam, and the giant body on the cross is Lilith.
Mm-hmm.
Correct?
Yes.
So are we to assume when he says, the second impact, when it says in the supplemental material, the second impact was caused by sticking the Spear of Longinus in Adam's body, did they stick that giant spear in that tiny thing, or are they still calling Lilith Adam at that point in the supplemental material? Just because.
Let's see. As far as the exact means by Adam was contained, damn it, that's this is kind of like that's a Carl Horn question. I told you who he was beforehand because
right.
And a lot of people who've read read my site for a while know that I think he's like one of the best English localizers out there for manga. The other thing about Horn is that he is an Evangelion mastermind, and he is actually like all the supplemental materials that Rob and I have been talking about. He's the guy who wrote them for the manga, and I'm sure he would have a good answer for this. Honestly do not. It's like I can accept the place that Lilith and Adam have in the story, as far as just where are they coming from and how did they get here. That's kind of like blah.
Yeah, I'm fine with it being a mystery as to where they came from, although there was, I think, again, it was the supplemental material. The idea is that Lilith was here on Earth and is kind of like the life force that created life on Earth, and Adam is an alien life force. That was the impression that I got.
Okay. Yeah, I can accept that too. I mean, the thing about Evangelion is that a lot of this stuff, Evangelion, by doing a lot of this stuff that no one had ever done before in the anime, it's like you actually get a lot of leeway in the sense that even if that Hideaki Anno and the rest of his team were just making this shit up as they went along, you had a lot of people, including me, convinced that all this stuff actually works together and actually means, and actually there is a reason tying it together, and that's why you've got all these conspiracy theories about what Evangelion actually means, perpetuating even almost 20 years after after its initial airing.
I'd like to just jump in real quick. Hi, it's John here.
Yeah.
Hi, John.
A lot of the themes and I've only seen the television series, and I really haven't read the manga, but a lot of the themes, I don't see them. I see the visualness of in the series where they use a lot of Judeo-Christian type of imagery to describe things and even names and things like that. But I don't think that it's meant as the interpret. I think we as Western viewers / readers tend to ascribe more value to it than maybe a Japanese person would. And when you think about when it was written, it's sort of like, oh, hey, even the Japanese tend to blend Buddhism with Shintoism and just kind of blend all this stuff together. They're kind of the mixing pot for when it comes to like philosophies and religions. So when I look at,
Yeah, 'cause they're a lot less sensitive when it comes to like religious stuff.
oh, absolutely. I mean, and I was just reading. I get emails from the J List guy. He's a he's a really interesting guy. He writes up these articles on Japanese, and he does a lot of other things. However, he was mentioning it's like they blend all these elements together, and they think it's perfectly cool to do that. However, when we see things like crosses, or we hear Adam or Eve or the Lance of Longius or the Dead Sea Scrolls, even the Tree of Life, the Kabbalistic, that's Jewish, right?
Yes.
So, we tend to like ascribe like different meanings to them, and I think that he's just using them to color his story, frankly. I don't think it has, I'm less of a conspiracy theorist when it comes to like, the interpretation of plots like that, but symbolism is a strong thing to throw into your story, and I think Hideaki Anno has even said like, no, that this is just, I threw this in here. I don't think he meant anything by it per se.
I think you're definitely right in the sense that this is just something. This is like they just like as Westerners, we're going to ascribe a lot more stuff to these things than the Japanese originally did when they made the decision to throw them in.
Yeah, and it's I pulled up the Wikipedia article on this, and they have themes in here, the themes of Evangelion, and they say it makes references to Kabbalah, just Christianity, Judaism, Shinto, Gnosticism, which Gnosticism isn't. It's like, okay, but they go on to explain a lot of they use Buddhist terminology, Zoroastrianism. I can't pronounce that. But, I think it's interesting, though, because we tend to, like I said, lock on to those things. As Western audience, what would be really cool is to talk to a Japanese fan, born, bred, raised in Japan, and just talk to them about it, and maybe, and see like what they think of it. I suspect that they would probably have a slightly different point of view than we do.
Yeah, or just strap Anno to a chair the next time he comes out to a convention and say, "What did you mean by all this? What does it mean?"
But I don't want to like take us too far down that hole, but I do find it interesting that, a lot of stuff, he makes a lot of liberal use of ideas and themes. And I think it's kind of cool, actually. But I think he's defining them in the terms of his story. So,
yeah, it's like, and for the manga, it's like, Sadamoto is kind of just like, picking up a lot of the stuff that was already in, in the anime, though I think like his greatest contribution is just kind of like, it's just like expanding on the characters and the relationships. It's like he even like begins to humanize Gendo to a greater extent in the manga than the anime. Just in the sense that those moments when when he meets with Shinji at the at his grave at Yui's grave and tells him, hey, humans aren't able to understand each other. You need to learn to walk on your own 2 feet. And Shinji appropriately characterized this as the first and last words that his dad said to me, that Gendo said to me as a father. And then later on when he has that confrontation in the bowels of Nerve and saying like Shinji, will you help me take revenge on God for taking away for what he did to Yui. I think just that's interesting in the sense that he kind of characterizes all of Gendo's actions as just him just trying to give God the middle finger just for taking away the woman he loves.
Whoa, that's not something I got. Did he say that in the manga? Did he say, "Help me take revenge on God"?
That's something. Yeah, you can bust. You've got my copy, so you can bust it out after we're done talking about this.
Man, yeah. I don't remember that one.
but yeah, that's something that I do that stuck with me. It's like it should be in like the last part of the fourth omnibuy. So,
Okay.
but yeah, it's like but yeah, like this is it does kind of characterize Gendo's like all his actions here is just kind of as being him trying to get revenge on God for when he lost. And if just move things towards the end here, that's one of the things I really liked about the very last chapter in this in the manga, and that in the sense that I liked there are parts in the very last chapter that I liked, and there's one thing that I kind of thought what, really, Sadamoto, you're going to spend the final volume just like bringing her into the mythology, and because I like the final chapter in the sense that it's a flashback to show you the first time that Gendo and Yui met while at college, and it also he also managed to demythologize Yui as kind of like this. Because for most of the volume, most of the series, she's been this I don't know, it's like this beautiful idol, someone who has who's just like meant to be like a beautiful mother, a loving wife, and just like a shining star who's taken from us way too soon. Like she's held up on a pedestal, like for a lot of the manga. And then you get to this final volume and you realize that she was kind of a silly little goofball. It's like while she was in college. And I liked seeing that. It made her feel more human. It's like
yeah. I thought it was interesting that he took her family name when he married her.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize that. I thought that was an unusual thing, and that she was apparently really brilliant, and I didn't get that impression for most of the manga. I thought Gendo was the real brain in the story, but it sounds like she really was instrumental in this whole thing.
Oh yeah, she definitely had her own smarts as well, and it's like I liked, and and the final chapter just made a good example of it, showing you how these two very different people could actually come together.
Right.
Yeah. The thing that kind of annoyed me though is the bit with Mari.
Yeah, I see. That's the person. So I was like, I've never heard of this Mari Makinami person.
She was a new character who was introduced in the of the four. I mentioned the new Evangelion movies that are being made.
Mm-hmm.
She is a new character who was introduced in the second one. So
in the new movies, so she's not even in the original anime?
Nope.
Wow.
So this is kind of like just a ginormous bit of fan service on Sadamoto's part, and I even think that the whole Yuri girls love aspect that he throws into it right there is just kind of like, yeah, I'm not averse to that, but at the same time you're throwing this in there at the very end of the series when we don't have really any time to unpack it. I mean, I like what you did with Shinji and Kaoru, but to throw this in there, it's just like I said, it's just kind of like, really? What?
Yeah, it was clear to me that the way they did it is he kept her name secret until the very end of that chapter, and it was clear to me that was supposed to be this big revelation. Oh, it's this character, and I'm like, I don't know who that is, so that had no impact on me. It meant nothing, and it kind of felt, yeah, it had no impact on me. So I don't know why they did that.
So just to bring things into clarity, when I talk about all the crazy shit that goes on in the last volume.
Mm-hmm.
Once you see the end of Evangelion, you'll see. Oh, so that's where he got all that crazy shit from. Because I mean, like when I say crazy shit, I mean we're talking about Eva 01 popping out of gigantic Rei Ayanami's eye.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
stuff like that. I mean, I was just amazed to read that actually the last two volumes really, and to see just how closely Sadamoto stuck to what was established in at the end of Evangelion, and it was also kind of disappointing as well in the sense because of that. Because I mean, I liked all the different stuff he did. It's like in the manga. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, even for all the differences, it's still Sadamoto does present a compelling and for me coherent alternate take on the series, like the whole glass half full aspect of this, and the fact that not the last chapter but the next to last chapter, that's the whole glass half, that kind of drives home this is the whole glass half full aspect of the series, because once you see the end of Evangelion, you'll understand what I mean by that's the anime is the glass half empty version.
Yeah, which is weird because boy, I felt like the end of this was just really, there was a lot of depressing stuff. Asuka was just like giving everything that she had to just, keep things going, to keep everybody from being killed, basically. And that was it was dark what was going on.
Yeah, I see what you mean there. And even then, but I still think that that moment when Shinji gets his whole white knight moment,
mm-hmm.
and Asuka, she's actually kind of okay with that. That's kind of like a nice evolution of her character arc to actually be able to accept that.
Yeah, she was mildly annoyed, but yeah, she accepted it.
Yeah, but as far as I guess just to kind of move towards wrapping things up, it's like I do think that the Evangelion manga is worth reading, even if you have seen the anime. Because I ignored it for years because I realized it's just even if it is by one of the key character designers, it's just going to be like the same old thing. But no, it's like there is enough different in there to make it to ultimately make it a compelling read and just like an interesting alternate take on the legendary series. Rob, any final thoughts from your perspective?
I had two questions.
Yes.
Can I ask? The first one is so there was supposedly this experiment that broke Asuka's mother's mind.
Yeah, we never find out what that was.
Okay.
I think if I had to guess, I think it may be. There are parts in the anime that imply that just as Yui wound up in Unit 01, it may be Asuka's mother that wound up in Unit 02.
Oh yeah, that would make sense.
But it's never explicitly stated this is what happened. In fact, we actually found out a lot more about Asuka's mother in the manga than the anime.
Oh, so I'm probably not going to get the answer to the second question either. So there's a scene where Asuka's, I assume it's her mother, tries to strangle her as a little girl. Was it her mother or was that her stepmother?
No, I can tell you that was Asuka's mother.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's like even though they're we never actually see Asuka's mother in the anime.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
so
I mentioned there were character designs for her because we do see her that briefly in the manga, and also she actually, I'm gonna hate myself for bringing this up, but she is actually a fairly prominent character in the spin-off Shinji Ikari Raising Project, which you shouldn't read because it is fucking terrible.
Okay,
regardless of the fact that Carl Horn does the adaptation for this. And it's only his work that keeps this from being worth the paper it's printed on.
Oh,
It's the thing about the Shinji Ikari Raising Project is that Horn actually did a good job of selling this to me at the anime conventions I've seen him at, and the sense that this is kind of like the it's like the goofy comedy version of Evangelion, and it's kind of like hey, the characters have kind of earned this respite after suffering through the anime and all, and that sounds like a good reason to invest in it. And for the first few volumes, it was cool, but then now we're up to volume 15. I mean, it's gone on longer than the actual Evangelion manga, and it's just the shine has just completely gone off of it. I mean, my favorite moment from the most recent volume was this one part where you get the sense where Misato picks up this manga, and she goes, "Oh my god, this is the worst manga ever! It's completely filled with repetitive fan service and nothing else." And I read this, and it's my god, it's Horn is just talking to me through the text. Yeah, so so don't bother with the Shinji Ikari Racing Project or any of the other Dark Horse manga that Dark Horse has published, except for the Evangelion Comic Tribute, because that is a good collection of comedic, mostly comedic shorts that that Horn was able to, because they're goofy comedy. Horn was able to take a lot of liberties in the English adaptation and actually make them actually funny to read in English. And there's also a new one from one of the contributors from that project, Tony Takizaki, coming out in another month or two, and I'm sure that'll be worth reading, if only because it's more comedy and should allow Horn more freedom to just be completely goofy. But like I said, just ignore the Shinji Ikari Racing Project, Evangelion Campus Apocalypse, and the Shinji Ikari Detective Diaries. Good lord, there's just Evangelion is like a gigantic self-perpetuating merchandising machine at this point, and Dark Horse managed to get most of the shit manga for it, but it sells for them because it's Evangelion, and you've got fans like me who will just buy almost everything that's Evangelion, and I draw the line at the Shinji Ikari Detective Diaries. Good lord, and
that sounds pretty bad.
Yeah, but John, any final thoughts on your end here? John?
Oh, yes. Sorry. I said I was thinking of reading those. No, I'm just kidding. I'm, and in all seriousness, I can't wait for the Blu-ray for all, with everything that I wanted to come out will come out either later this year or maybe next year, hopefully. But on top of that, you've actually kind of reignited my interest in reading the manga. So I'm actually probably going to go and pick them up because, I think that it's, something, just talking about it has got me interested in it again. Not that I'm not interested in it, but, I don't rewatch things unless, I have a really good reason. But yeah, so and a really good comparison and a good discussion about
stuff.
Yeah.
Wait,
I think
John,
he might have
still
cut
there?
out. I think he might have muted himself.
I hit mute again. My apologies. What was the last thing I was telling you guys? It is a podcast.
It was a really good discussion about.
Oh yeah, about the differences between the the anime and the manga. So, definitely has piqued my interest in wanting to read the manga, and even rewatch the television series. The television series kind of ends with a kind of unsatisfying conclusion. Just the television series itself.
Yeah, but but also that's true. But when I was originally watching the anime, the ending of the TV series was kind of like everyone. All I'd heard was oh, it's so terrible. And then when I watched it was kind of like, well, no, this wasn't really as bad as I was expecting.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you've got the end of Evangelion to replace those two episodes, and it's kind of like fandom just went, what the fuck?
Well, I definitely said that when I watched that. But I didn't say it was unsatisfying. As I just it wasn't awful. It just wasn't great.
It didn't just defy your expectations. It kind of just steamrolled over them and then set fire to the remains.
Yes. Now I never read up enough on why he decided to end the television series that way.
Oh, I think I've heard about this. It's because Gainax ran out of money.
And that's what I was going to say was the number one theory that I had understood. It was
that's terrible.
Yeah, and which isn't, I guess, I don't know if that's uncommon, but
well, remember, it's worth mentioning because we've got the whole concept of the Gainax ending.
Yes. So true.
Yes, because I think lots of Gainax stuff just has endings that just makes no sense or just kind of what were you smoking when you came up with that?
Yep.
I mean, the only one that I haven't seen every Gainax series, but the one I can probably say that, hey, this one actually works as far as an actual ending would be Puchi Yushi or Petite Princess Yushi, the TV series they made out of their Princess Maker anime. But that probably only the reason the ending was that that ending wasn't completely insane or broken was because the whole series is pitched towards kids. So
Right, exactly. Oh, okay. Do you know what you're going to be discussing next time?
so early right now that I've got no clue, so I guess you'll be surprised. But Rob, thanks for joining me on this. I really appreciated your insight and input on this.
Oh yeah, thanks for the invitation. I'm sorry I didn't have more to say, but it's relatively new to me, and I'm still thinking about it.
Dude, you had plenty to say. This is like this podcast has already gone on like almost 3 times as long as our usual ones.
Oh, okay.
I think whoever listens, if you've listened to this podcast this far, it's like you get an honorary no prize for doing it for listening to the whole thing.
All right. Thanks a lot, guys. Thanks a lot, Rob. Thanks a lot, and we'll catch you next time.
Thank you.
Comet Picks by the Glick.
Laters.